Welcome to VGK Today, a daily podcast providing you an inside look at the Vegas Golden Knights 2025 Stanley Cup playoff run. I'm Justin Russo with the Golden Knights on Friday, May 2nd, as the VGK have officially punched their ticket to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs after a 3-2 win over the Minnesota Wild last night in Game 6. It was a strong effort from the Golden Knights in a series-clinching game, and the Knights knew they wanted to finish off the series at the first time of asking. They wanted no business with a potential Game 7 on Saturday in Vegas, and to make sure that didn't happen, Vegas' stars showed out. The all-important first goal of the game went the way of the Knights, and to kick things off in the first period, it was Shea Theodore who struck on the power play.
There's Jack Eichel, down to Stone at the goal line. Threw it backdoor. Olofsson put it through the crease. Checked by Foligno in the right circle. Now Theodore straight on. Olofsson on the right. Settles the pass. Back to Theodore. Shea shoots and scores. Power play goal, Shea Theodore. Top left corner. The Knights score on the power play at a 1-0 lead. 3.5 minutes into Game 6.
While Vegas was riding high after that goal, the Wild would strike with just 4 seconds left in the first to even things up heading into the middle frame. With tight checking and little space in that middle frame, another goal would require an outstanding play, and the Knights got one from their top line late in the period on a beautiful pass from Mark Stone to Jack Eichel.
Now McNabb gets the puck forward to Stone. Area pass, finds Eichel, in behind the D. Eichel down the middle, he scores! What a pass by Stone! Perfect area pass, precise touch, and precise finish. Eichel gives Vegas a 2-1 lead with 3:48 to go in the second. Jack Eichel's first goal of the series, and the Knights are back on top.
So Eichel gets his first goal of the series, and Vegas is back into the lead heading into the third period. In that third period, with the Wild desperate for a goal, the Knights had to be strong. Minnesota had some good looks, but Adin Hill was up to the task, and the good work on the defensive end allowed Mark Stone to pick up an insurance goal.
Threw it out high for Theodore. He shoots, knocked down Eichel in front, and he couldn't get a shot away. Sprawling block at the goal line by Boldy. Carlson up top for Theodore. Left for McNabb, bottom of the circle. From the corner, he saucered in front. Stone scores! Flips it in out of midair on a centering pass by McNabb. And the Knights are 4 minutes away from clinching the series. A 3-1 lead. Mark Stone with his second point today, his second goal of this series, and the Knights have that insurance goal with 4 minutes to go.
All seemed well at the time, but as the Stanley Cup playoffs show you, nothing comes easy, and the Wild would not go quietly into the night, answering that Mark Stone goal just over 30 seconds later to get back within one. So, for the last few minutes then, it was up to Vegas to hold down the fort and finish off the win. And Vegas' effort was on display in the final moments.
Draw left side. It's a stalemate under the fallen players at the draw. Now to the corner, along the boards near side. 2 Minnesota players there. Hartman center, poke check by Hill. Rebound knocked to the outside. 9 seconds to go. Zuccarello feeds back. Faber shoots, blocked. 5 seconds to go. Faber another shot, blocked on the outside. 2-1, goes across the slot, and the game is over. Vegas survives and marches on to the second round. Final score in Game 6, Vegas 3, Minnesota 2. They survived the last-minute push by the Minnesota Wild. And somehow the Knights never trailed in this one. The score is 3-2. The series is 4-2.
A gutsy effort by Vegas to grab the win, and now the Knights are set for a second-round clash with the Edmonton Oilers, who just a bit later on in the night won their 4th game in a row over the LA Kings to punch their own ticket to round 2 and continue their push for the Stanley Cup. 2 times now in 3 years, we get Vegas versus Edmonton in round 2. The last 2 Western Conference champions battling it out with some of the biggest stars the game has to offer on full display. Must-see TV coming up in round 2. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a final look at Game 6 and this first round series. After the break, we'll welcome Dave Goucher and Shea Hnidy to do just that, as they react to the Game 6 win. While we don't quite know the second round schedule just yet between the Golden Knights and the Oilers, we do know when tickets will go on sale. Tickets for the second round between Vegas and Edmonton go on sale today at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Maybe you're listening to this later in the day. Well, they're already on sale. In either case, VegasGoldenKnights.com is the place you go for a limited number of single game tickets for this second round series. Again, we don't quite know the schedule yet, but if you want tickets to any one of these specific games, be sure to head over to VegasGoldenKnights.com. And again, we'll remind you the Golden Knights have home ice in this series, so that would be games 1 and 2 in Vegas, game 5 if necessary, and of course game 7 if necessary as well. A potential 4 games at home for the Golden Knights against the Oilers, but if you want tickets to any one of the potential 4 games, head on over to VegasGoldenKnights.com. And it's also a good time to remind you that while the tickets go on sale to the general public at 1 p.m., there have already been opportunities for full and partial season ticket members to get their tickets. So if you want to become a season ticket member for the 2025-26 season, you can give the Golden Knights ticketing team a call at 702-645-4259. Again, that is 702-645-4259. And get this, fans who purchase a membership will receive exclusive benefits, including access and pricing for this year's playoffs. So if you want to get in on some of those benefits for this year and moving forward, check out a season ticket membership for the 2025-26 season.
All right, Shane, so this is a bus version, literally back of the bus, last row of the bus version after the Golden Knights beat the Minnesota Wild in 6 games to move on to round 2. And I guess first off, big picture, how do you think the Golden Knights were able to advance and move on to the second round?
Well, I think they got better as it went along, right? Certainly they're top players, and it wasn't easy. You know, you got to credit the Minnesota Wild for the way they worked, the way they battled. There wasn't a lot of open space. It was, Bruce Cassidy talked about it. It was a heavy game, every game, and it was close. It was tight, a couple overtimes, but those are the way playoffs roll. And I think the Golden Knights, to understand you need to play a certain way to be successful, that's been one of their strengths. They can play different types of games. This was not wide open hockey, not a lot of rush chances. This was grind, gritty, and hard work, and they were able to pull it off. So I think, when you get into those type of series in the first round, and there's always a little added pressure in round 1 when you're the higher seed because you're expected to go through. That kind of fades as the rounds go along, but that little extra is there maybe on the mental fatigue early on, and I think the Golden Knights just did everything they needed to. I thought their top guys were tremendous here to wrap up the series.
Yeah, they're best players, right? And we kind of talked about it. You need them eventually to break through. I mean, they're built on a lot of depth, but Eichel and Stone and Theodore, McNabb, Hill, you can go right on down the line that really led the way in game number 6.
Yeah, those you mentioned every guy. I thought they had their best games of the series. Captain, just an incredible pass to Eichel. The two of them were phenomenal, not only on the offensive side, but defensively. That line with Karlsson kept Boldy and Kaprizov away from scoring, which they did all series long. And then McNabb and Theodore, that pairing was tremendous in this game. And Adin Hill, his best game. He got better as the series went along, but he looked comfortable tonight. He was solid. He came up with some big saves, in the stretch, because there's going to be a push in a tight game like that with the team. They're back against the wall like the Wild. You're fighting to live another day, and Hill made some huge saves. They battled in front of him. It was a hard-fought win, and now maybe you get a little sigh of relief now. You're down. Yeah. You got that first round under your belt, but certainly that'll fade quickly, and you'll reset here as they'll focus on whatever opponent they have next.
Yeah, there's times that first round can be the toughest, right, to get through. And you look at how this series went, Shane. The Golden Knights are down 2-1, and they pull out Game 4 in overtime, Game 5 in overtime, and then another tight one in Game 6. I mean, you could make an argument it certainly could have gone either way, but the mark of a good team, as you said, and they seem pretty comfortable in these high-pressure, close games, and that showed again in this series.
And you have to be, right? Yeah, that speaks to the experience, the veteran group. We hear them talk about it, and what I like about the Golden Knights when I think of this team is, and we've heard it a lot, they're self-aware, right? They know when they weren't their best, and I think in Game 2 they're disappointed. So, Game 3 didn't turn out the way they wanted, but they got better, and then they're like, all right, let's lock it down. I thought their top guys were better in the final 3 games, and it's not a coincidence that those are games they win 3 straight here to lock up the series. So, but yeah, not easy. The overtime, it's playoffs test you both physically and mentally, And, to come out on top here, I know it's still early. There's still a long way to go when you think about it. 16 wins are only 4. But tremendous. They put pressure on themselves. They're a team that expects to win, wants to win. But it is not easy because you come into playoffs, 16 teams feel they can win. Now there's going to be 8 teams that think they have a real good chance. And they're all evenly matched, and it's just, it's a will. How are they going to play? And right now they can enjoy it for a little bit, but certainly they'll get ready to move on for a big round 2.
And I guess just in the bigger picture too, I mean, there are franchises that would give anything to have the success the Golden Knights have had now in their 8th season, to be out past the first round 5 times. And, we know that obviously win a cup, go to the final, but their ability to come through in the playoffs, where a lot of other teams just haven't been able to do that for whatever reason here over the last 8 years.
It's a culture that's been built from day one, right? The identity, the culture of being a Vegas Golden Knight, the expectations that are on you as an individual and as a group, and that's to be successful. And to do whatever it takes to be successful, do it as a team. And that's the way they're built from day one. I don't know if we saw year 1 going successfully, but that vaulted it ahead, the expectations and what this team wants from each and every season, and that's to compete for the Stanley Cup and be a contender.
All right, Shane. Well, it's 8 seasons for us in the books,
That's it.
That's it. I don't know what else there's nothing else required of us right now, and so we'll just say we've had another blast of a season on the TVs, and we're going to sign off here from the back of the bus. Maybe that's fitting for us that we're in the back row of the bus here doing this VGK today, but. We'll stay tuned. More to come in round number 2.
Well, I don't know about a fitting ending for you guys. You got to give yourselves a little more credit than that, than sitting at the back of the bus. But thanks to Dave and Shane for taking us through Game 6 and the first round series. And thanks to them again for another wonderful season of Golden Knights hockey on the TV side of things with Scripps Sports. It's always a bittersweet moment at this time where, of course, the Knights move on to the second round, but the national TV networks take over in the playoffs from here on out. So no more local TV broadcasts from here on out, but Dave and Shane, well, they're still going to be around as the Knights truck along, and we look forward to hearing from them again soon on VGK Today. And, of course, you can always tune into the radio broadcast. Dan Duva and Gary Lawless, you heard some of Dan's calls earlier in our show. Well, they're still going to be there for every single Golden Knights game until the very end, whether it's round 2, round 3, or the Stanley Cup final. They're going to be there every step of the way. So if you want a Golden Knights-centered broadcast, be sure to tune in on the radio, Fox Sports Las Vegas, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM, for the Vegas Golden Knights radio broadcast the rest of the way through the playoffs. We'll step aside once more, and when we return, we'll get the locker room reaction from the Golden Knights as Bruce Cassidy, Jack Eichel, and Shea Theodore all spoke to the media after Game 6. While the Golden Knights await the start of their second round series, if you're looking to get your sporting fix in this spring, you can check out the Vegas Nighthawks because they're back at Lee's Family Forum coming up tomorrow on May 3rd, and of course next Saturday, May 10th. You can catch the fast-paced, family-friendly action of indoor football with tickets available at nighthawksfootball.com. Also, as the playoffs roll along, you can always get the official VGK mobile app because it's the easiest way to keep up with the team. Plus, fans with the app will have the chance to win tickets to select playoff games. Download it today for Apple or Android. First up on our locker room whip around, let's hear from the head coach. Here's Bruce Cassidy with the media after Game 6.
Bruce, after Game 3, there was no panic. You felt that the team was right there, even though they were down 2-1. What did you like about your group over the last 3 games?
Well, we found ways to win. Go through each game and kind of revisited the last 2. Today we got the lead, which is good. We haven't had the lead a lot. It was important to do that. It sometimes can change the way a team like Minnesota will play. I'm not saying it did a lot, but it could. They're tough to play against with the lead because they protect the middle well. They don't give up a lot of easy offense. So that part was good tonight, starting that way, and then extending the lead late. When it's 2-1. You hate to see that last goal go in to make it that tight, but that's hockey. They kept pushing. That's it. And then if you look at the 3 games, our top guys were a lot more productive and impactful than the first 3 games, and that's probably the biggest story right there. goaltender, Theodore, Eichel, Stone, all of them, you know, like go through them. They got better as the series went on, and it showed and kind of culminated tonight.
Hi, Bruce. Jesse Granger at The Athletic. How good was that area pass by Stone to Spring Eichel, and how big was he just all night for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he was awesome in every area. It was like the play, different type of pass, but the play Kiprusoff made in our building to Boldy for the breakaway. I forget, it was that game 2, right? Or 1, I can't remember. It's a long time ago. But it was those plays like that, you just, you know, to do them in real time, and the guy catches the puck in stride with people around is it's just a special talent. But we've seen Stoney do that. He's got a tremendous hockey IQ, and I mean, even his hand-eye coordination on the third goal. So a lot of good from Stoney, and we knew that would happen. It just took some of those guys a little longer, and that, you know, that happens for different reasons in every series. Credit to Minnesota, you know, for doing what they had to do, and then a credit to our guys for, you know, finding a way. And you move some pieces around, and sometimes that gives guys life. But Jack and Stoney end up together. They're probably what, you know, we see for the most part, because they've been together all year, and good to see them get it done for us.
Ken Wilkeson, Vegas, were you surprised that you got as much of that matchup against their top line being a road game?
I didn't know what would happen. I thought maybe if we got the lead, they would kind of form a checking line to play against them and try to get away from that. But I don't know. That I can only react to that if it happens. So, no, I'm not surprised, or it was kind of head-to-head matchup the whole way. They had their way early, and I think our guys, if you're just going by the stat sheet, right, which I don't always think is, sometimes you convert on a couple and you feel like, oh, they've outplayed them, but that's not always the case. There's lots of analytics, I know, but that, you know, that's how it played out in the end. And such a tight series that I guess it's probably the biggest storyline.
Ed Graney, Review-Journal. This is the type of game that Adin Hill usually steps up in, these kind of, you know, clinching games and stuff. He did so again tonight. Can you just talk about his performance? Yeah,
he was excellent. Got better as the series went on. I think the type of chances we give up can often dictate how, you know, Aiden's results will be. You know, he's good with, you know, the kind of fighting through traffic, you know, box outs, kind of finding pucks and those type. He's a big guy in there, predictable shots. A couple of earlier games we gave up 2-on-1s and, you know, really high danger ones. Now you're going to get some high dangers around the front of the net, but he's pretty solid on his feet. Like even the last goal, he's probably upset I didn't challenge, to be honest with you, because they had a player in the crease. But oh boy, that's you know, that's a tough one. But I if that was first period, I think there was no doubt, or well, no doubt in December or January, maybe even the first period. But that's when he's good with all that stuff going on. He's usually pretty good there, and he didn't really have a chance there. He got knocked off his mark, but credit to them to get around the front of the net. But those are the games, but also the moments, right? He's been good in the playoffs in these kind of crunch time games for us, and hopefully that continues. That's been his playoff resume so far, and he said, I'd like it to keep going.
Bruce, is a game like Jack had tonight in this series where he struggled earlier, is that illustrative of why he's so good in the playoffs? And I think there's only 3 American players that have, in such a short time that he's been in the playoffs, that have scored more points. But he did struggle so much. Is the way that he's just able to kind of compartmentalize everything?
I can't say that word either.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't. I trip over. It's not that hard. I swear if I say it in 2 minutes. But I think he just can elevate his game. He cares. He wants to be the best. And he certainly doesn't want to hear how someone's outplaying him, right? And he has no... Jack's a very respectful guy. I'm sure him and Boldy, they just played on Team USA, have a great relationship. He appreciates great players. Just don't want to get outplayed by them. So I think there's a little bit of that. He wants to... And I'm not going to say chip on the shoulder. That could have been the case 2 years ago, you know, in his coming out party, so to speak, in the playoffs. But now it's just, he's been through it, you know, and he's got a... That's internal drive. That's a motor that is not teachable. Guys have it or they don't. And so that's why it's easy to sit up here after game 3 or 4, whatever it was, say, I'm not worried about Jack. But I honestly wasn't. He's a highly competitive player. I'd be worried about him if he was playing through a serious injury or something like that, right, where he can't get there. He missed some time at the end of the year, and I just think the start of the playoffs, his timing was off a little bit. Then we start chasing games, at the second game, particularly at home, so no one looks good. And that's how I saw it. But I think that's it, and I think that's all the great ones. There'll be a story tonight around the league. Someone's going to have had a really good hockey game. It's probably a high-end guy that just wanted to put the team on his shoulders, but lead, right? Lead that way. Hey, come follow me. I'm going to get it done. And Jack has that ability, and you got to be able to do that with the puck, and he can do it very well with the puck. Some guys do it more defending and whatnot, but he's a guy that can drive it.
Let's now get a player's perspective on the win and go over to Jack Eichel and Shea Theodore.
Jack, no series is ever easy, but the fact that you guys were able to respond after Game 3 and find a way to win this series, is it good to go through that adversity as early as you guys did and allow it to go into the next round?
Yeah, I thought it showed a lot of resiliency from our group, and got to give us a lot of credit. And give them a lot of credit. I thought they threw a ton at us. Obviously in Game 2 and 3, we probably gave them a little too much, and want to try and hunker down defensively and make them earn what they got. And I think as the series went on, we made it tougher on them, and just a ton of credit to the group. Finding a way to win, win, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters this time of year.
For Jack, how good was that pass, that area pass Stone sent?
Yeah. I mean, it's great. He just lets me skate right into it, and it was a great play by him, great play by Naber in our own zone, and able to attack off of a turnover, and Stoney makes a great play. It was big goal.
For Jack, what went so well against that first line today, and then how easy is it to defend with those two on your wings?
I think when you throw Carl in the mix, obviously it gives you a little, a little help down low, and somebody who, plays the center ice position naturally and can take draws, and depending on who's first back in the zone, can play low, and I think we all know Stoney's game and how good he can be, defensively with his stick, and so that line, gave us a lot of problems throughout the series, and give them a lot of credit. Those three they create a lot. They create a lot off the rush. They get a lot of pucks to the net, and it was good for us to, try and shut them down. It's a big part of their offense, and I think you got to give the whole group a ton of credit. I think everyone stepped up at different parts of the series and found ways to contribute, and that's how you win this time of year.
Shea, Aiden's been very good in these moments. He was again tonight, one of your best players. Can you just talk about what you saw from him tonight and him yet again stepping up in kind of a moment like this?
For sure. I think he's been kind of battling as the playoffs go on, but I think over the years he's shown that he steps up in big moments, and I think down the stretch he made a couple of huge saves, which kind of helped give us that confidence, and it's good to see him kind of feed off that.
Shea, this is the 5th time in your 8 seasons with the Golden Knights that you've been to the second round. What does it say about the organization that have that kind of a run?
I think ever since I got here, that's the message that, we want to win. The guys that we bring in, good character guys. That's the message right from Bill Foley. So, guys care about it every year. That's our goal when we come into training camp. And, it's good to see us, playing well, especially at the right times.
You score. Naber has 2 pretty big assists. You're out there on the ice at the very end. What's it like to be part of one of the best pairings in the NHL?
Naber's a special player. He's been in the league a long time, and, he can definitely surprise you with his offense. And, I think just kind of being trusted in those moments is good, and, I'm glad we got the job done.
We'll go Jesse, and then last question to Vince.
Shea, it seems like the whole team got better as the series went on, and that was no different for you. How do you, when you guys don't start the series the way you want to, how do you fight through that, and how do you stay confident and end up playing as well as you have the last couple games?
I think it's just kind of experience. Over the years, you kind of learn not to get too shaken up early in series. Obviously, I think both teams are trying to figure each other out, and you're trying to find your own game. Obviously, I didn't like my first couple games, so I feel like the way I rebounded and kind of finished the series, that's kind of the style that I want to play, and continue to do that going forward.
For Shea and Jack, not to take away from the overall win of the series, but that final handshake with Marc-Andre Fleury, the crowd, the reaction from his teammates, your teammates, just what did that mean to you, and to see that moment?
He's one of a kind. He was special, when he played here in Vegas, and you see how loved around the league he is. I think you just see how much fun he has. I think I saw his little mic'd up video, I think from last game, and that's him to a T, whether it's practice or in a playoff game. So a hell of a career. I'm proud to know him as well as I did, and he's definitely a Hall of Famer in my opinion.
An emotional Marc-Andre Fleury giving one final wave to the crowd at Xcel Energy Center in St. Paul right after the handshake line, as he, for the final time as an NHL player, skated off the ice with the Minnesota Wild after Game 6. And Shea there, of course, a former teammate, offering some kind words to Marc-Andre Fleury, a character on and off the ice. And I think no matter what team you root for, you're a fan of Marc-Andre Fleury. Just one of those well-loved players by everyone around the league. Sad to see Marc-Andre Fleury go, but hangs it up after a historic NHL career that, as Shea said, certainly should earn him a spot in the Hall of Fame. So, as the dust has now settled on the first round, we look back on a tough and well-fought series between two excellent teams. And you can take the labels away from both. Despite the Knights being a division winner and the Wild being a wild card team, this was an excellent series, and this was a fun one between two heavy teams and two teams that certainly could have made their case to go on to the second round. A couple of bounces going here and there for Minnesota that knocks them out of contention and knocks them out of the playoffs. But the Knights are happy to be on the better end of some of those bounces and happy to be on the winning side of this series. And they're hoping they could take some lessons from round one now into this next series with Edmonton, as the Knights look to get ever closer to recapturing the Stanley Cup. That'll just about wrap things up for today's show. Thank you, as always, for tuning into VGK today, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform, as we'll be back every day throughout the Knights' 2025 Stanley Cup playoff run. Stay tuned tomorrow as Darren Millard joins the show. Justin Russo signing off for VGK Today.